I've got a very early morning here at work, so that's why it's so dark, but the Netanyahu UN speech has already started, and half of the room walked out. I don't know how many people exactly.
Please, order in the hall.
But as I was watching his speech, he said something.
And to the jailers of our hostages, I now say, lay down your arms. Let my people go. Free the hostages, all of them, the whole 48. Free the hostages now.
So many people have wondered why Jesus said to Joshua that I will come to take my church, the Exodus, that he would say the Exodus instead of the rapture. Now, many people have already written him off and already called him a false prophet, and the whole world is mocking him. I've seen it globally that, they've thrown him right under the bus. But I want to remind you that Jesus has a habit of speaking in parables, and that it wasn't always readily understood. And he had a habit of not explaining himself to religious people. Jesus said, I will tear down this temple and rebuild it in 3 days. And then the religious people said, they didn't understand him. They said it took, I forget the number, 46 years to build this temple. Now, Jesus said in Luke chapter 8, unto you it is given to know the mysteries of the kingdom of God, but to others in parables, that seeing they might not see, and hearing they might not understand. Jesus said in John 15, starting in 14, you are my friends if you do whatsoever I command you. Henceforth I call you not servants, for the servant knows not what his Lord does, but I have called you friends, for all things that I have heard of my Father I have made known unto you. So back to Netanyahu's Exodus comment. Don't you find it interesting that the entire world is gathered against Israel? 160 nations was the last number that I heard that want to recognize a Palestinian state right in the middle of Israel. I've also done a study of how many times they've said peace and security at these meetings. There was 22 on day 1, 29 on day 2, and 48 mentions of peace and security on the third day. That's nearly 100 mentions, and there's almost an average of 40 speakers per day. So those are mostly individual statements of peace and security. 160 nations was the last number that I heard that want to recognize a Palestinian state right in the middle of Israel. Only Donald Trump, the United States, stands in the way of that happening. And Trump is working behind the scenes to do a Abraham Accords with the Muslim leaders. And now that Netanyahu's in the United States, Trump will have a side conversation with him as well.
And it's looking like we have a deal on Gaza. And we'll let you know. I think it's a deal that will get the hostages back. It's going to be a deal that will end the war. It's going to be a deal it's going to be peace. I think we have a deal. That'll be number 8, Peter, not 12.
Victory over Hezbollah has made peace possible with our two Arab neighbors in the north. Victory over Hamas will make peace possible with nations throughout the Arab and Muslim world. Our victory would lead to a dramatic extension and expansion of the historic Abraham Accords, which President Trump brokered between Arab leaders and myself 5 years ago.
But don't you find it interesting that Trump has pretty much put Netanyahu in a corner? And the art of the deal, man, don't you think that he can say, you have to do things my way, or I can take this veto away and let these guys declare a Palestinian state? Even if somehow the rapture topic were a bother to you, boil it down to just the prophecy alone. Look at how much pressure is being put on the covenant right now to make a covenant come to pass. And then just yesterday, there was all sorts of talk about World War III. Medvedev, I guess you say it, made a nuclear threat on X, Twitter. Hegseth is gathering all the generals. They were saying that NATO is being used as a proxy in Ukraine, or sorry, Ukraine's being used as a proxy for NATO and the European Union to go to war against Russia. So there's big things going on that's stirring up the Russian conflict. And don't forget that when they say peace and safety, sudden destruction. And in the 80s, people like Henry Groover, Dmitry Duduman, and plenty others have had visions of America being nuked. So is Trump involved in somehow being part of the Exodus persecution against Netanyahu? That is yet to be seen.
But wait a minute, Mr. Prime Minister, they tell me. Wait a minute. We believe in a two-state solution where the Jewish state of Israel will live side by side in peace with the Palestinian state. There's only one problem with that. The Palestinians, they don't believe in this solution. They never have. They don't want a state next to Israel. They want a Palestinian state instead of Israel.
So there's a lot of moving parts going on here. I've tried to keep this as coherent as I can, but what I see is that there's pressure against Netanyahu by the United Nations, an overwhelming number trying to put a Palestinian state, which gives him, an alternative to go to Trump for the Abraham Accords, which he's already spoken positively of. So there's going to be a meeting later today with Netanyahu where they have a sit-down talk, probably some things that go on behind closed doors where they discuss what the other 8 Islamic nations were going to do to be a part of this. So we have all the ingredients for the confirmation of the covenant here. I can't put a date on it. I don't know when, but, it needs to be said. The Joshua issue, a lot of people find that to be a failure, and on the surface it looks like a bust. But the recent understanding that has come out from Bro Scott about the Julian calendar, if you're interested in that, then I'll kind of send you some directions on that. If you're not, then it still points to the same timing here. I think that we still have a window of opportunity here where things can quickly come to a resolution, and I don't think that our time has passed. So this guy here, I saw his video yesterday. He puts together an excellent presentation about the Julian calendar. Watch that here if you want, and I'll see you on the next one. Jesus is still coming.